broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
If you get in trouble.
Hello, Bar Rescue fans. Bar Rescue Season 4. Tonight's episode, A Spoiled Brat, right? Something to that effect. My name is Kevin Undergaro. I'm so happy to be here hosting, and thank God who's sitting across from me, this one of the stars of tonight's episode, and our frequent co-host, Tall Mia
Mastriani.
I was going to say Mastrani.
There's so many different versions of my last name at this point. I'm okay with all of them.
I am so glad it's just me and you, and I'll tell you why. Because normally I love Dorinda, who's got some stuff at home she has to deal with, and Phil. I like a full table.
And Ashley.
And that's right, and Ashley too. Oh my God, we have no Ashley tonight.
I know.
Wow. Hey, Steven, where's Ashley tonight?
I don't know.
Oh,
sadly.
Interesting. Okay, but you know what? I'm excited just to have you because I felt like, as you said, there was no kitchen, so we were down an expert. So it was the Mia show, expert wise, and I loved it. I mean, you always kill it. So
Thank you. I really, really enjoyed this episode. From all the ones that I've done, I always feel personally connected to them. But there was something about last night. I loved this episode. I thought it played very well. It was so touching with the family. But I mean, let's just get started on Nick. How frustrating is that, man?
You know, my girlfriend hates people like that because she just, Greek work ethic, and she's like, and you love bums, and I do kind of love bums. I have a love-hate for them because there's a part of me, of course, hates them and whatever, and then there's a part of me like, you know what, his life's kind of cool. He just drinks at the bar.
Lives with his mom.
That's right. Sister pays the bills, father pays the bills, like kind of a good life. But a case study in a guy like that, I often argue this in my brain, is this nature or nurture? Meaning, okay, all the clinical signs are there. He's the youngest. He's a baby boy. The father seems a lot older. I mean, it seems like a telltale sign of someone who has been called and spoiled. But there's something to be said too, and I've heard this from experts as well. Sometimes it's also what you have inside of you to begin with, what you're born with. So in the case of this guy,
it's a little bit of both.
It's both.
Absolutely. I mean, Monica, his sister, was incredible, and we did our one of our trainings in her bar while they were doing the remodel on Nick's house. We actually went to Monica's and did our cocktail training there. Her bar was amazing. Her promotions were on point. She had a clear demographic that she was going after that fit the neighborhood that she was in. Her bar was clean. It was organized. Her bartenders knew what they were doing. Her bar was impressive. So obviously, their father has this history in the bar business that he got from his father. This is the family history. It's the family business. And the work ethic was so strong with the dad, and that went down to Monica. I think they both assumed.
And she looked older, but she also looked older than him.
I don't think there was a big age difference.
Oh, okay.
I really don't. I don't know what their exact age difference is, but I don't think she's too much older than him.
I felt that there was a 5-year at least, which almost is a generation. I mean, and some can be, I know that can be argued, but I felt like there was a big difference in age between them. Because just not just by appearance, but everything, the way she looked at life, and it just made sense. I've seen the younger one, in families, get skipped over. In terms of being pushed, it's like almost like the parents are punched out at that point, and they just let the little one, younger,
I mean, I can argue the point that I'm the younger sibling in my family,
but were they punched out? Did they push you?
No, they definitely pushed me, but I feel like if they hadn't, my older sister would have. I feel like, you know,
right.
and Monica was the type
All right,
that
so I'll give you
she had the professionalism that Nick was lacking, and neither the father nor the sister, no one in the family, even the cousin that was a bartender there, no one ever stepped in and told Nick, listen, you got to shape up. You're not cutting it.
No.
And
I mean, I'm the youngest too, but I had it inside me because they did skip over me a little bit as far as that goes. Like my dad did construction. I had to go out there and do it with him. It wasn't like, oh, you need to come out and work. So anyway, it was just watching him, and we'll talk about it as we go through every beat of this. Very interesting. Okay, the bar, why not 3? Thought it was very clever, the name. Tony spelled backwards. Why not? And I once again applaud Bar Rescue because something a little different. You know, we have, he's rolling up with the sister and picking this, if we're calling it casting, I like casting this bar because there were good bartenders there. The family had successful bars, so they knew what they were doing. So it was different than normally what we see.
Exactly.
And I liked it. I liked seeing the fact that the family all were good bartenders. It was not.
They were all successful.
Yes.
All of their properties were successful, with the exception of this one.
And when we go to the recon, we just see the sister is in the car with John, Monica, and what they're watching is it
was a free-for-all.
It looked like a frat party, where people are pouring their own drinks. And,
it was.
And he's just wandering around and standing in the corner and
outside on the front porch texting. Like, while there was a hairy man doing body shots on the upstairs bar.
Oh, my God.
There literally were people riding down the stairs on a giant piece of cardboard.
And did you see any of we saw it at the beginning, but did you see any of the burlesque shows?
Oh, no. I didn't personally see any of those. I think they were just alluding to the promotions that they've recently been having before the show came in. But that looked like a disaster.
Train wreck. Man, it was bad. And you can see John, just all the questions he's asking Monica, and he knows. He had it read right from the beginning. How much does he owe your dad? He knew. It's like, God.
But again, and it's something that we see time and time again. How does it get to that point where he owes his father $500,000?
Can I tell you how?
Rent?
Can I tell you how?
Please.
Because that building's paid. That building was just a house, and it's in Milwaukee, and it's paid off 10, 15, 20 times over. And the other bars are making money. And so basically a little bit of money is being lost, but not as much as you think, because I bet you anything the building's paid for.
Okay.
And that and then the sisters, were taking some booze out of her place. So it's not it's if you practice responsible business, it's a drain. If you practice what we call here at AfterBuzz retard economics, because we do practice it, then it's like, all right, whatever. My dad's got the building paid off. What's the big deal? It's not costing him any money, but you don't look at business that way. It's costing him $500,000 a month. $500,000 in total for all that rent. I mean, that's, if I'm sure government-wise you'd write that off. So, and who knows? Maybe, and by the way, maybe he is, and that's helping too. So, it seems that's like nobody was going to the poorhouse.
Right. They were perfectly willing to enable him.
Yes.
And to continue to enable him.
But the problem is nobody's thinking it through, because at some point the bottom would fall out. The dad will pass away, and or I guess probably the sister would just carry him at that point. But that's a nice thing. I've known people who have had family businesses, and a lot of times it's when you get the real estate with the business, pretty cool. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? When
That's
you don't
just
have to
a gift.
When you don't have to rent the bar. So that's what it's a guess. I might not be right. That was my guess on what was going on. It was interesting to bring up Milwaukee. Was it 4 out of 1,800, 4 bars for 1,800 people, right? Or something like that?
Can I just say, Milwaukee was amazing. And when the show called and was like, Mia, can you do this episode? Do you want to come to Milwaukee? I was like, yes. When am I going to go to Milwaukee? This is amazing. I loved Milwaukee. I had no preconceived notion, but it was still better than I expected. However, that being said, there are more bars per square foot in Milwaukee than I think in any other city. There are so many bars. They're everywhere.
And I know from Milwaukee is they love to drink, right?
Yes, they do.
You know, so were you recognized by any of the people at the bar? Like, we've never talked about this. When you went in, did they know you?
It wasn't until I think it was Stress Test, or maybe it was Relaunch. Just got to fix this for a second.
But here's the thing, because I figure someone like you and yours, like your stature, just first of all, you're beautiful, you're tall, you know, were the people attractive there in Milwaukee as they would be, say, in New York or LA, or, you know, because I would think you'd walk in there and be a rock star.
It was very strange, because for the first time in all of my bar rescue experience, this I think was my 6th episode, and for the first time, I mean, as soon as anyone hears that John Taffer is coming to town to rescue a bar, word gets out.
Awesome.
And for this Stress Test and for this relaunch, they came out in hundreds. I mean, this street that Nick's house was on was packed both nights.
Because of John.
Because of
wow,
John.
That's great.
They want to come and see him. They want to see the bar. They want to be a part of it. They want to see him shut it down. It's amazing. And they will stand in the street and wait for hours to get in and be a part of this experience, which is phenomenal. But for the very first time, I was walking from our production office over to the trailer to get ready to go in to do either Stress Test or Relaunch. I can't remember which one it was. And I was walking with one of the assistant directors, and the line, I could hear it start in the line where people started yelling, "Oh my God, it's tall Mia. Mia's here. Wow. Mia's on this one." And I was like, oh my gosh, it was very surreal. And we finally got to the booth, and they said to the director and the executive producer, they're like, "Mia's got some fans out there in this one," because they're all diehard bar rescue fans.
Right.
So they watch the show, they get to know the experts, and, you know, they get excited, I guess, when we come to their city. And it's a great experience.
It feels like Milwaukee would be a fun place to party, because everyone loves to drink, but there's also not the violence that you get in Boston, Philly, New York, where people just want to fight.
Exactly.
Even LA, it's getting like that now, you know. But it seemed, right, is it that more, the environment, more of the happy Midwest environment?
A bit, yep.
I like that. That would work for me. But yeah, so looking at that, you know, in the United States, one in 4,800 in the United States for bars. Mm-hmm. And then in Milwaukee, it's 4 bars for every 1,800.
Yep.
Something crazy like that. Wow.
It really was nuts. Like just driving through the city and walking a couple of blocks. I mean, there's just bars everywhere. The market is saturated. So you have to do something outside of the box that's going to attract people, because if you walk out the door, if you don't like it, there's 5 more bars on that block.
Median age 25 to 34, great sweet spot.
Phenomenal.
And 43,000. I think 43,000 here might have been off about 1,000. It's median income. So this was like prime. The dice game thing, that was just weird.
Oh, I learned about that right before I went, because a friend of mine was like, someone had told me that, you know, beer or bar dice is a thing in Wisconsin, where I had to have it explained to me before going in, because I didn't understand it either. The bartender will actually play a dice game with the guest, and whoever wins the round of the dice game buys the drink. So you could potentially be giving away your bar, because if you lose the dice game, the bartender's buying the round. If the customer loses, you know, they buy the round, but it's not. There's not a game of skill. There's not.
No, and yeah, right, and it's not like the odds can go in the favor of the house.
Right.
Like in Vegas, the odds are always in the favor of the house, no matter what the game is.
As John pointed out to these bartenders, he had experience with the game and certainly knew what it was. He said this is something that you do when the bar, you know, it's a slow night and you play a round. You don't play round after round after round for every single drink. And that's what these bartenders were doing. They weren't getting the crowd. So they'd have 3 people at their bar, and they'd just continue to play round after round of dice because it was something to do and they were bored, but they were giving the house away.
It was funny, John. I always listen for some of the labels he'll give people. Like with Nick, because we've had you are the biggest moron, or you're the most unethical, or but this was the most pathetic. And he was right.
He nailed it.
He was right. He was the most pathetic.
It was the perfect adjective to describe Nick.
And what was interesting and so sad is the beating. And it wasn't sad that the beating was being administered. It was punishment due. Mm-hmm. But seeing his reaction...
He did not care.
He was just numb, right?
Day after day after day, we went in there, and, I mean, people like to try to stand up to John once he starts in and start.
It's just human. What happens is you get tired, and if you start out, I'm thinking, hey, this guy's going to rescue my bar. I'm going to go along, be polite, and then I'm going to get $500,000 worth of renovations and all publicity. But what happens is hours go by, you get tired. As I say, the mask falls off, right? And then you because your defenses go down, and it didn't. It
wasn't even a mask. There was never even a mask. He was so beaten down by life and was so miserable, and his heart was not in this bar business at all, and he had no business being there. However, his response to every question the entire week was, I don't know.
I don't know.
How much money do you owe your dad? I don't know. How much money do you owe your sister? I don't know. How do you make a drink? I don't know. Everything was, I don't know.
John, should you fix my bar?
In his I don't knows was I don't care. And that's what was really sad, because their employees, these bartenders, they all worked at this bar only 1 or 2 nights a week because they couldn't afford to work there full time because they weren't making enough money. They were all good bartenders because they worked at other bars. So they were doing it for the family.
So let me ask you this. Okay, but let me ask you this. And I guess maybe this doesn't relate to the show, but I want to ask it anyway. It felt like he didn't care about anything. Is that what your feeling was, or you just didn't care about the bar? Like, I mean, it seemed like he cared about the family. He didn't seem like an evil guy. He didn't seem like a malicious guy.
I mean, Nick was a nice guy.
But just work-wise, it didn't seem like he cared about
I don't think he's found his passion yet. I think, and at some point, I think he was saying, I've got to figure that out. Maybe I should go back to school. Maybe I should take some classes.
And I think that sometimes you either have passion or you don't. I hang a shelf and I have passion.
Exactly.
I have to go home and write a cookbook for my girlfriend. I hate cooking. I hate it. But you know what? It's just, you have passion about your work. And it was just watching this episode, I kept going back in my head I'm horrified thinking if my kid ends up like this. I've seen kids that are come out of good families who push them, and just whatever it's just not in them. Anyway.
I think it's a case that it was the family business, and he felt like he had to do it or was expected to do it.
I don't know. See, there you go again. See, because you're a girl, and that's what you guys do. You get mommying, and Steven, because he's young. Steven, so we were watching this, and Steven's like, yeah, poor kid, like, had this thing forced on him. I'm like, forced on him?
He was given
forced on him, given a bar and a great lifestyle. Like, are you kidding me? And by the way, even if you didn't want to be a bartender, just to be given that piece of property, are you kidding me? Like, oh my goodness, like, stop, everybody. And then the father was like so loving. I've seen most family business dads are like, F you, you're doing it when I was your age, blah, blah, blah. I've given you a great life, and then this guy was like, he's my son.
Exactly. But I mean, I did love that one scene where it was just the dad and John.
I loved it. By the way, I love this whole episode. It was unbelievable.
I did as well. But when John ever said to him, and he's like, well, what can you do? And John said, well, you take the keys from the bar away from him. And he said, oh, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. He's my son. And John said, you don't need to be a loving father. You need to be a tough father. And it's hard, but this man was so compassionate, and I think he saw, oh, well, I did it for my daughter. I got to do it for him. And he just...
Yeah, we all get into that. Right, that whole fairness. I have it with people who work here, It's like you feel like, well, I did it for one, I got to do it for the other. And then sometimes it's like, wait, you think you're being fair, but you're not being fair. You're being unfair to Monica. And I think because she's probably a female and she's spoiled baby brother, they all think that that's their role. Like, he's supposed to be the useless baby brother that we're all supposed to clean up after. I love how I feel. As I was watching the first act, I just said, we can't fix this guy. I knew. I'm like, I was like, okay, maybe John's gonna patch this kid together, but this will fail months after John leaves. And John, ahead of the curve, I feel like he knew. He knew there was no way. I mean, let's talk about the stress test. He made him a bar bag.
This stress test was one of my favorites because it had such a direct purpose. We set the timer for an hour and a half, and it was designed so that he would spend a half an hour as a bar back, work his way up to a bartender, work a half an hour as a bartender, and then finally be promoted to manager. I didn't even think he deserved to get promoted beyond bar back. He had no business being behind that bar or in that building at all. It was so rough. And I am the #1 cheerleader when it comes to going into these bars, training these staffs. As long as they respect me and are willing to listen to what I'm telling them and directing them and showing them, if they're giving me respect and listening to me and paying attention during trainings, I am their #1 cheerleader. I will go to bat for them and I will make them better. I love training. It's part of what I do. It's one of my favorite parts of being on the show is that I get to teach other people. And Nick was the biggest source of frustration that I have ever had. And I think it showed on this episode because I couldn't hide it anymore. He didn't try. He didn't listen. He made the same mistakes over and over again. And as John said, it was just pathetic. It was pathetic.
And he didn't, when we got promoted to bartender, then that was just, this is where I felt bad when his hand was shaking, when he was handling the jigger. Mm-hmm. I felt bad.
I did too.
That made me feel bad because it was like, okay, like he just didn't belong there. No, he's not programmed for this. And even when John asked for the keys, if he belonged there, that was the moment to say no. No, coach, don't take me out of the game. I always look for that too in people. Sometimes I'll push them to get them to say, no, F you, do not take me out of the game. No, I can do this. I can, okay, and it was like, no, here's the keys. I'm like, wow. And when you get, and anyway, let's talk about the family sit down.
Well, this leads directly into that.
The family sit down where writing is on the wall. But what blew me away when he was like, yeah, great, I want to pursue other opportunities.
Mm-hmm. And it was so perfect for John to ask Monica, if I renovate this bar and if I train your staff and get everybody on the same page and give you a successful business, is that throwing Nick to the wolves? And she said yes. And the dad agreed. And Nick agreed. It's like, you can set me up for success all you want. You can renovate my bar. You can give us great equipment. You can train my staff. And I'm still not going to do anything with it.
Now, the cynical part of me is saying, yeah, here, take the keys, whatever, make her general manager, and I'll just come by and get my money. I mean, you guys had no control over that. Obviously, what can you do? That's a family, but pretty sweet deal Nick got. And by the way, if that was best, I think that was the best situation for the best course of action for the cards we were dealt here.
Absolutely. I mean, if they had just decided to keep him in that position and just stick it out and try it, it would just go back to being what it was, or it would have closed. Like, they would have reached a breaking point at some point. I would like to think.
Yeah, no, I think it would just, he would just keep draining and draining and draining. A lot of those guys usually I find that they make it right to the end. I've known a lot of the people like that, meaning people around them die off, and then they usually skate out, living in a niece's bedroom.
But he wasn't exactly living it up. He's a 30-year-old man who was living in his mother's house.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. He skates out. So then the mother dies, he gets that house. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, those guys always find a way to, if that were me and you, we'd be homeless. And you know what I mean? Like, it would be, oh my God, life or death. But there's just guys like that they just sit on their thumbs and it just all works itself out for them. And the money just trickles down, grandparents' money to parents, to them, however it works. And when right about the time the money's gone, that's when they kick off. And usually it's in the parents' house, or could be a niece's basement, or something. Someone, yeah. Oh, I want a safety net like that one day. Okay, so let's talk about relaunch.
Relaunch was incredible.
Yeah.
I thought this was honestly one of my favorite renovations to be a part of, to watch what they did with that rundown frat house feeling and give it such an accurate theme. Like, the 70s theme was genius for that location. It was so adaptable with that concept. and the art department went above and beyond finding vintage pieces and crazy wallpaper, and the graphics department created that old school stereo to cover the refrigerators. Every detail. Again, John thinks of every detail, and he turned it into a house because that's what it is.
It was
and
a house.
Upstairs,
That's right.
there was, they broke it down in the episode. They're like, and this is the bar, but this is the living room. There was a dining room table that was a setup, but it's perfect for people to go and sit and have some cocktails, and they had 70s themed board games to play. I mean, so many little details that I could have stayed in that bar for hours finding little knicknacks that are so cool.
It would look like such a fun place for that age group. Why wouldn't you just go there?
There was such a response from the crowd that came in for a relaunch. Everybody was buzzing about that place. It was like, there's nothing else like it in that area.
And I thought the name was very clever. Mm-hmm. It was Nick's, right? But what was the subtitle? It was
a why not bar.
A why not
because
bar.
it still kept on brand.
And we kept the brand. It was like, wow, it was so good. I agree. There haven't been many renovations. Relaunches I haven't liked, but this, to take a house, it was just genius. Mm-hmm. Make it livable, give it all those nooks and crannies, all those features, and I feel like a Milwaukee crowd for that age group would love to say, oh, what
perfect.
a fun place, and what a great place to chill.
Yeah.
All the couches and chairs.
It was such a comfortable atmosphere.
Right?
It was.
By the way, it was almost like a 70s Soho house. Do you know how your place has that
it has
kind
that
of
very loungy,
right? Sit by a fireplace, right? Mm-hmm. And so this was the 70s version of that. It was so cool, and again, making it look like inside of a house, which it was obviously. Yeah, it was super impressive. And when we went to, I don't know if we've ever had a 200% increase.
That was insane. Like, I always loved watching the ends of the episodes to see where they've gone since the show has been there. But 200% in sales. And that is beverages alone. They don't have a kitchen. There's no food in there.
I didn't even think of that.
This is all just based on their business.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. With her at the helm, and I mean, it really now is set up to succeed, Mm-hmm. And what was Nick's undoing is actually in this new situation his strength, because he's not like other owners whose wings we had to clip. They would fight it. Like, they might temporarily let their wings be clipped, but then their wings grow back or their fangs. And then, we hear back at again, signs get taken down, this gets changed. Mm-hmm. But it was good that this guy was so pathetic, and so apathetic, he's like, go. And so now this, the cousin who, was built to bartend, loves it, loves the business. Now she's running a Taffer bar that's, done back to the nine. So, I really feel like this one, we go the distance, this one.
Absolutely. I would expect nothing less because, like I said, their bartenders, their staff was great. Their bartender, I was able to do more with them because it was finally a group that had bar experience. I wasn't teaching people that had never made cocktails before. They all worked at other bars. So I could kind of fine tune certain things within my training saying, okay, well, you guys already know the basics. Let's take it above and beyond and go a step further. Let's do multiple rounds of drinks. Let's do the double shaking. Let's use the strainer properly and do the double stream of pouring so you can actually pour more cocktails at a time. So it was these little intricacies that I do on a nightly basis that I never really get to bring into the show because the bartenders are usually so inexperienced. This group was great. And I think as long as they stick to the theme and want this to be a successful business, it will be.
The only thing I disagree with you about, okay, and I just want to throw this out there, that I agree that when you tap the bottle once, you can get the bubbles.
No. Okay, so this is also a speed thing. If you just pick up a bottle and flip it vertically upside down, gravity, the air will go to the top of the bottle. You don't need to hit the bottle before you pour.
Never hit the bottle.
It was the most ridiculous thing.
Why do you keep doing that?
Watching him make these cocktails so slowly in the first place, so I was just, okay, just be patient, put on your patience pants, let's just keep going. And watching him hit every bottle, I was waiting for him to break a bottle because he was like literally smashing them on the bar. And I was like, finally, just What are you doing?
I'm getting the bubbles out. I was like, good for you, Nick, getting the bubbles out. Don't listen to me. I got the bubbles out. See?
It's not a thing.
I'm going to do it with my beer right now. It totally works. That was so funny.
Oh, my gosh.
You know, can I ask some? You know, my girlfriend thinks that, in general, women work harder than men. Girls are harder working than boys. Would you agree with that?
I can answer with my standards.
Boys might have a different physical strength and all that, but I'm just saying for pound, because I see a lot of these women who are on these shows, they care so much, they work so hard. We've had our divas, and we had Queen Sheba, as you know. But for the most part, I don't know, I'm just curious. What do you think?
It's tricky for me to answer this because I do have a very strong work ethic. Like you said, if you're putting up a shelf, it's the biggest
Okay, but
project ever.
but you've been around how many staffs, Mia? Come on.
True, but I mean, I love a female bartender. I love to see a strong, independent.
You like to see that, but
empowered-
you like to see that, but I'm just saying, pound for pound, in general, who has the edge? Is it a flip a coin? I mean, like my girlfriend thinks it's girls.
I might have to agree with
because
her.
they have
something to prove, especially in this industry. It is a male-dominated industry.
I know physical pain is you can take more. Maybe, I don't know if it's childbirth or whatever, but Steven, you're in the booth, right?
You want to weigh in?
Ignoring me, yeah. So last week, Steven was sick 2 weeks ago, and then he did the civilian move to say, okay, I'm better for a day, and now I'm going to go on vacation, party, get more sick, and then come back and be sick again. Phil, also sick, couldn't get out of bed. Now, mind you, no one's throwing up, no one's sweating. It's not that kind of sickness. And there's little Marissa, you know, all 5 foot nothing. Literally, one show she engineered one of the hours she engineered 2 shows at once. She was running back and forth in booths, switching cameras, and none of the boys were to be found. And I was like, you know what?
That was remarkable.
That's just what Maria says all the time. She's like, we are, you know, we can take more. We're harder workers. And as I was watching all these women do such an amazing job, and I think of the other weeks in the past where we see these women with such passion and love these bars. You know, these employees. It's not even their bar, and they cry for the bars, and they, you know, and it's like, I don't know. Something to consider.
I don't know.
I mean, definitely a woman will get more hysterical, and like with those issues, yes. But I'm just saying, like pound for pound. I don't know. I was watching this episode, and I was like, I don't know. It just made me think. Because look, we had an all-star cast of women on this.
Absolutely.
And what about, by the way, who's the other no-name guy? He didn't get any love. There was another guy. He was like an extra. He'd be like,
the other bartender?
He'd be like the security guard killed on Star Trek, like the guy you didn't know. Did you remember there was?
Yes, there were.
The red shirt.
Yeah, he was a red
I forget
shirt.
his name, but he was great.
Yeah.
He was a great guy, and I mean, I really did enjoy these bartenders. I keep in touch with one of them who, you know, we'll email back and forth, and she lets me know how they're doing. But it's just so great to know that it's succeeding.
Mia Mastriani, 2014 Speed Rack champion.
I have to clarify. I am the champion of Southern California. I am Speed Rack champion of San Diego, but another girl won nationals this year.
Why, beat us?
What?
She beat us?
She did, but she's amazing.
No, I don't care.
I'm sorry, the girl's a ninja.
No.
Caitlin, love you.
Yeah, no, screw that. Next year, Steven, make a note. We get to the judges.
Hey, I've been to nationals twice. I plan to go back this year.
Really?
I mean, I just have to win Los Angeles this
How
year.
was she? Older or younger?
I don't know. I think we're in the same age bracket,
yeah,
but
damn.
I mean, she's just a
I don't
ninja.
know. I think I think the fame and stuff like that's going to get to you. You're not going to have the edge anymore. You don't have the eye of the tiger.
I disagree.
No, you know what? We have to watch Rocky 3. No, we need to.
I'm not even kidding. When I'm in training mode for Speed Rack, I do listen to the Rocky theme.
Good. No, but we need to watch Rocky 3 because damn it, you lost the eye of the tiger, Rock. You did. You lost the eye of the tiger. Now you're famous. You're on Bar Rescue. You're the deputy to John Taffer. You know, the sheriff of all
I'm
bars
very
in the world.
competitive, and when I get into competition mode,
I'm saying I think Clubber Lang just kicked the crap out of you. Right, and I think we have to bring you back to the streets. I think we need to get you to maybe some nightclub down in L.A. Maybe somewhere we just have to
rough it.
We need some shit show, not Soho where it's just kind of chill. Like
hey, have you been in there on a weekend?
It's crowded, but no, we need the old school people yelling at you. I want drinks, like the whole bar packed. Nobody can get drinks. Nightclub, maybe music pounding. Yeah, I got to get you back.
Game on.
Eye of the Tiger. I got to get back the Eye of the Tiger. All right, so Mia, how do we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at tall_Mia and on Instagram, tallmia.
Steven, where do we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Stephen Lemieux.
And Adam Degar from me, and tomorrow night is the Sons of Anarchy finale.
Oh, my goodness.
Whew, which is going to be a crazy night. This was amazing. I continue to just love this show. It just every week. It's man, I just get nervous. I don't want it to stop. You know? It's such a great show, and I get really tired for you guys because and for John, I don't know how the hell
they have such a crazy schedule, but I mean, he's a machine.
Yeah, he really is.
This is an amazing show.
He's a gift to us all. Anyway, okay, Bar Rescue fans, we'll see you next week. Get ready for Christmas, I guess, everybody. Start enjoying the spirit.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.